This was a really horrific murder that shook the town to its core.
There's been an arrest in the murder of a pizza delivery woman some 8 years ago.
Hi, thanks for calling Dominos.
That phone call to that pizza place lured her to what was going to be her death.
I don't think she ever saw what happened to her coming. She's going through a horrible custody battle right now, and the father of the child is Chad Cobb.
You have an electrical restraint device.
There was overwhelming evidence, literally left on a silver platter about Chad.
There was 3 people there that night, 3 adults. There was Chad, Ashley, and Erica.
I carried out my part of it. I did exactly what he told me to do. And it wasn't because he was forcing me to do it or like he had a gun to my head.
Chad is in prison and Erica is out raising the kids.
And she shacked up with his best friend.
And I think that kept eating at him, and then eventually he'd had enough.
I'm not the one who strangled her, sir.
Would you please repeat that?
I am not the one that strangled her, sir.
It's revenge. That's what he wants, pure and simple. Revenge.
Your wife is in a bar. You said she's unresponsive.
This is what he's going to tell you.
How to get out of that situation.
And I grabbed the gun.
Trying to find the first place to put a body.
No, sir. The only thing they could do was kill him.
You want to say anything? We, the jury, and to find the defendant.
Hi, thanks for calling Dominos. We'll be right with you to take your order.
It was an order for a large pepperoni and mushroom pizza, called in by a woman at a nearby office complex.
It was about 11:40 at night, and she told him that, look, we're working late, just come around back and we'll meet you out back.
On duty that night as a Domino's driver was Ashley Biggs, a 25-year-old single mother in a relationship with a girlfriend.
What Ashley did not know at that time is that that phone call to that pizza place lured her to what was going to be her death.
Ashley drives up in her car, pulls around back to deliver the pizza. I don't think she ever saw what happened to her coming.
There was a struggle, change, money was on the ground, there was blood on the ground. We know that she was beaten very badly when she was there.
She was tased in the back. A zip tie was placed around her neck and pulled tight enough that she was not able to survive. She died right there in the parking lot.
When Ashley did not come back from her delivery, the manager at Domino's became worried. He became worried because the place that Ashley went to deliver the pizza was not that far away. So it should not have taken her that long.
So the delivery person starts calling her girlfriend and say, hey, have you heard from Ashley? She's like, no, I haven't heard from her.
The manager at Domino's tried calling back the number that placed the order. No one answered that phone either.
The police come there, they go to the scene, they asked, well, who could have done this? Why would this be? And the girlfriend said, she's going through a horrible custody battle right now, and the father of the child is Chad Cobb.
Chad Cobb, a 34-year-old cable installer who lived in Summit County, Ohio. His brief relationship with Ashley Biggs led to a daughter and years of a bitter custody dispute. The little girl was a big part of his life, according to Chad's mother, Cindy.
Really come into being a man when he was a father. Kind of lost before then, but that's probably his shining moment when he first became a dad.
But the relationship with Ashley fell apart as she declared herself bisexual.
I know that Ashley started seeing other people, other girls. She kind of bounced back and forth between being with Chad or being with girlfriends.
Ashley seemed to be a really nice individual. Some people might say that as a mother, she might have fallen a little bit short because she left her child's life for a period of time.
In fact, Chad was awarded custody after Ashley decided to enlist in the Army and essentially disappeared from her daughter's life.
No phone calls, no letters to see how her daughter was doing. She was just gone from her life.
Then, 6 years later, when the daughter was in first grade Ashley came back to town, and things turned ugly.
Chad went to school to pick up his daughter and found out that there was no daughter to be picked up. They had sent the daughter home with Ashley.
A local magistrate had awarded custody of the little girl to Ashley, apparently without ever notifying Chad of the decision.
Matter of fact, the police had to be there because the daughter did not recognize her mom, did not want to go with her because she didn't know who she was, and I guess the police had to tell her, no, this is your biological mom. It is okay for you to go with her. Just sent this child with virtually a complete stranger.
By this time, Chad Cobb had married. He and his wife, Erica, had 3 other children, plus the daughter from Ashley. Chad and Erica were desperate to keep all 4 children together, but the court kept siding with Ashley over her daughter.
Yeah, from Chad's perspective, I think he did get a raw deal. I mean, he was the primary custodian of this young girl. She was all he knew. He was losing control, losing custody, losing contact with his daughter. That was a source of real fear and frustration, and a great deal of concern that if he didn't do something bad would happen to his children.
He was out of money for the custody attorney, not getting anywhere with the courts. One of his last conversations with me was he was going to turn custody over. He didn't know what else to do.
2 days later, Ashley Biggs was dead. Her abandoned car discovered in a farm field. Her brutally beaten body inside.
She was in the back seat, partially on the seat and on the floorboard in the back.
For Detective Michael Hitchens, Chad Cobb was immediately the prime suspect.
So we started looking at Chad, trying to find out where he was.
Police ultimately found one of his cars, a Lincoln Navigator, parked at his grandparents' home.
Chad wasn't in the car. He was actually hiding in the woods when the officer came up.
But in the car was Chad Cobb's wife, Erica, and his 4 children, including the daughter he had with Ashley.
A little strange to be out there at 3 or 4 in the morning, hiding behind a garage behind your grandparents' house. And most people wouldn't be out that late at night having their kids sitting behind a barn.
We then did a search warrant of his home. He had a backpack with all the equipment in it, the zip ties, all kinds of stuff. And in that, we found Ashley's blood on many of those different items.
There was overwhelming evidence, literally left on a silver platter about Chad.
Chad Cobb was charged with first-degree murder, a brutal, premeditated murder that made him, under Ohio law, a prime candidate for the death penalty.
It was a tough case. This wasn't a case that we felt we could go to trial and do well on.
Don Malarczyk is one of the state's leading defense lawyers in capital punishment cases.
Our number one goal was to avoid the death penalty. That was clear. We talked about the time where the government might want to execute Chad and how old his kids would be. I said, Chad, you need to be there for your kids. And that was the driving force. Chad wanted to be some type of father, some type of positive influence for his kids, and he accepted a deal for life without the possibility of parole.
The murder of Ashley Biggs had been solved. The killer sent to prison for life. But there were many unanswered questions. Had someone else helped Chad Cobb hide Ashley's body and car in the farm field? Who was the woman who ordered the Domino's pizza? Detective Michael Hitchens was not ready to close the books on this one until he found out who that was.
I wasn't giving up on it. Like I say, I got a few years left before I decided to retire, and it was going to stay with me until that happened.
New Franklin's kind of a sleepy town, quiet, pretty crime-free.
It is a village of 14,000 people with grand homes on a beautiful lake that likes to boast it is one of the 100 safest cities in America. So the brutal murder of Ashley Biggs was a shock.
This was a really horrific murder that shook the town to its core.
It was just awful.
But with the arrest and guilty plea of Chad Cobb, it appeared the murder of Ashley Biggs had been solved, and the village could breathe a sigh of relief. But not for Detective Michael Hitchens of the town's small police department.
No, I haven't given up. The case was still sitting next to my desk in a box. all these years.
He was convinced Chad Cobb did not act alone and refused to close the case.
I don't like to give up, it's about the best way I could say.
As the detective returned in daylight again and again to the scene of the crime, the office complex where Ashley Biggs had been lured with a fake pizza order, he became focused on who called in that order.
We knew there was a female caller that called and ordered the pizza at the beginning of this, so we knew that there was probably a female involved.
Cobb's wife, Erica, had been taken into custody the night of the murder.
They definitely thought she was involved right from the start.
But there was no evidence to tie her to the crime scene, and she was released.
There was nothing else that we could find at the time there. It was strictly a phone call by a female that was unknown, used a fake name, obviously, from what we found out.
And Cobb remained silent when asked about Erica, whether his wife had a role in the murder.
He did not bring a word up about Erica. He didn't offer any insight to her involvement at all.
We clearly felt like he was taking the deal to protect her.
But Detective Hitchens was able to determine that the phone call to Dominos was made from a so-called burner phone, with cellular minutes purchased at a nearby Walmart.
They were purchased a couple days prior and put on the card the same day.
And when he pulled the security camera footage from that Walmart, bingo.
Chad Cobb was in the video along with his children, and then Erica was there with them as well.
He was getting closer.
I needed someone to start talking. I was just waiting for that break because usually everybody talks to somebody eventually.
Cobb was now in state prison.
I decided to go up and visit him and talk to him and see if he was willing to talk to me yet, and he was not ready at the time.
The detective was also monitoring Erica's Facebook page and was surprised to see this post, suggesting she had no remorse over the murder of Ashley Biggs.
It was a picture of O.J. Simpson, and it said 99 problems, but a bitch ain't one. It made me think that there was some definitely underlying problems, and she did not care for the deceased.
But then, a surprise. Erica, no longer a blonde, was pregnant, and the father was not Chad.
She shacked up with his best friend,
Mike Stefanko.
Unbelievable. Erica got together with Mike shortly after Chad went to jail. First, she told me she didn't know whose it was, that she had gotten drunk and had just picked up some guys. And then later on, we found out that, she had been with Mike and they had been together for some time.
Cobb felt betrayed, and from prison, he signed divorce papers.
She kind of wanted to stay married to Chad and just have Mike on the outside, and Chad was like, no, you're my wife. I'm not sharing you.
And then a final straw when his daughter with Ashley, now a teenager living with Erica, revealed how she was being treated by Erica.
It's not something that I want to think about all the time. It's sad just to listen to everything.
With her grandmother Cindy present, the daughter agreed to her only television interview about the case and Erica.
She was my stepmom, and I did call her mom. She was physically and mentally abusive, and I was told not to tell anybody or else she would do worse.
But she decided to tell her father in a handwritten letter sent to him in prison.
Loving Father, I hope that this doesn't make you cry because it makes me.
Describing the cruelty she said she suffered, including being put in a dog cage.
I can remember being locked in the cage one time. She caught me saying your name and crying. She pinned me to the wall and screamed in my face. Put me on the floor. She put her left knee on my stomach, her right on my throat. Then her hands, one over the other, my mouth. Sometimes I just thought that I was gonna die because I didn't know if she was gonna let up.
The daughter he had tried to protect from suspected abuse by killing her mother, Ashley, was now telling Cobb she was being harmed by her stepmother, Erica.
When I was sure that she was gone, I would stop and sit against the wall, saying, Daddy, please come home now. I need you. God, please make my daddy come home now. Love you.
Chad had a hard time believing Erica did what she did. He was just floored.
As he sat in prison, doing life, Chad decided he could take no more and that Erica had to pay for her betrayals.
It just keeps eating at him that she's living in my house. She's living with my best friend that I grew up with. They had a child together while I was in jail, and he is raising my children. And I think that kept eating at him, and then eventually he'd had enough.
And I think he finally got tired of carrying around Erica's guilt.
Ultimately, he wrote me a letter and said it would behoove me to talk to his mom, and I could come back down and talk to him some more.
Having betrayed her husband, Erica was now about to be betrayed by him.
It's just been a terrible nightmare. And things that you really think shouldn't happen have happened.
4 years after the crime, the secrets of who else was involved in the murder of Ashley Biggs remained secret, and the mystery remained unsolved.
You know, I'm not going to sit here and say, you know, Chad's fully innocent. I don't know the full story. There was 3 people there that night, 3 adults. There was Chad, Ashley, and Erica. Those are the 3 that know the story.
And Chad Cobb's mother, Cindy, was determined to know the story, the full story.
Ashley can no longer speak, obviously. Chad is very remorseful for what happened.
So Cindy's focus was now very much on Erica, Chad's ex-wife. She was alive and well, now married to Chad's best friend, Mike, living with him in the house Chad had bought, raising Chad's 3 children, and to the anguish of Cindy, denying her regular visits with her grandchildren.
Cindy Cobb, Chad's mom, was very devoted to her grandchildren. And the idea that Erica would somehow get in between her and her grandchildren was something that Cindy Cobb, I believe, would never tolerate and would go to whatever lengths she could to make sure that that did not happen.
So, on a chilly spring night, Cindy Cobb invited Erica to come over to her remodeled barn with a living room and a bar. Erica thinking they could patch things up, unaware she was walking into a trap.
I think part of the big impetus of her going to talk to Cindy was to convince her to kind of intercede between her and Chad and say, Chad, you know, let it go. Let it go. And that's not what happened. Quite the opposite happened.
All secretly recorded by Cindy.
If you want pop, or I'll take some of the stronger stuff if there's any available.
Cindy began by pouring Erica a vodka for what would be a 2.5-hour chat. A tiny digital recorder Cindy put on the coffee table went unnoticed.
There was a bunch of stuff on the table. It was just in the mess of stuff.
The conversation started with the children.
Is that I would like to raise my children, our children, and the one that is not his. And I don't want to go to prison.
I didn't really have a goal. It was just a spur of the moment.
And then, after about 90 minutes, Erica began to open up about that night, with Cindy reminding her of what she had said earlier about making the call to order the pizza.
You told me face to face that you made the phone call and you set the meeting up. I mean, that's what you had told me, and there's no lie in that. Like I said, Chad said this is what we're going to do, and this is your part in it, and I carried out my part in it. I did exactly what he told me to do. And it wasn't because he was forcing me to do it, or like he had a gun to my head. It was because he said this is your part and this is what you're going to do, which is how it always was when we did something we weren't supposed to do.
I just kind of let her talk. Wasn't expecting, what the conversation was going to be. Had I been smart, I would have asked questions.
But Erica did not need to be asked about the victim, saying she had no regrets over the brutal murder of Ashley Biggs.
Do I feel bad about what happened to her? Not really. Do I feel bad about what happened to everybody else? Absolutely. Would I take it back if I could? Yes, I would.
And then Erica talked about living with a guilty conscience.
You can't really function in everyday life if you're looking over your shoulder every second. Every time I hear a siren, I think they're coming for me. And that's something that I'm going to live with.
The tape was a bombshell, everything Cindy Cobb hoped it would be. But instead of turning it over to the police, Cindy Cobb put it away in a safe and, she says, did not listen to it for 4 years. Ammunition for a future use.
Really didn't think about it.
But over those next 4 years, as Chad Cobb, in prison, continued to get reports of his ex-wife Erica and his best friend Mike with his kids, on vacation, in his house. And then there was the letter from his daughter about her mistreatment at the hands of Erica. For Chad Cobb, the time had come for that tape to come out of the safe.
Chad is in prison and Erica is out raising the kids, and he, did a lot of soul searching and rethinking, why he is doing what he is doing, not telling on Erica.
So finally, now almost 8 years after the murder, the turning point. A message came from the state prison. Chad Cobb wants to talk.
So the most important thing we got out of that meeting was he said, you really need to go to talk to my mom. So Detective Hitchings then went to talk to Cindy Cobb. And when he talked to Cindy Cobb, she said, well, I recorded a conversation with her, and would you like to have it? And he said, I'd love to have it.
My gut told me that she was involved, but some of the stuff that was on that tape recording.
And I carried out my part in it. I did exactly what he told me to do.
Made me really believe how much she was involved and knew about it.
Including this stunning description.
He would get this look on his face and be like, if this goes through and I can do this, I'm going to keep her skull as a trophy.
Obviously, you personally would know that you're going to kill somebody if you're planning on keeping their skull.
At the Summit County, Ohio prosecutor's office, pure joy.
As a prosecutor, 20 years, you do not come across items such as that.
Well, when I heard the tape, I knew that we probably had enough to get not only an indictment, but we had a pretty good shot at getting a conviction at that point.
Including Erica's admission she could have stopped the murder if she wanted to, but did not.
He foolishly threw the ball in his court, let him make the determination as to whether he was capable to do something that I should have had the good sense to know you just don't ever try to do.
She was just unadulterated, pure Erica. And if you listen to that tape, you will get a real insight to who Erica Stefanko is.
And I did everything he told me to do, and I didn't give it up.
That tape was our proverbial smoking gun.
But there were still gaps in the evidence needed to charge Erica.
There was no physical evidence that tied Erica to it. No blood, no DNA, no nothing.
Making a phone call to order a pizza is definitely not enough to convict someone of murder.
So prosecutors would need the help of Chad Cobb doing life in prison, and he at first tried to use his help as leverage for a reduced sentence.
From the get-go, we told him there's no deals. I mean, you're going to do life in prison, and we're not changing that.
The same message was delivered to Cobb's mother, Cindy, who prosecutors also would need to testify to authenticate the tape.
So we approached Cindy and said, listen, your son is not going to benefit from this in any way. So you got to just let that go. So if you want to help us still, we'd love to have you help us. We want to see Erica get her just due. And she thankfully did the right thing and said yes.
There's been an arrest in the murder of a pizza delivery woman some 8 years ago. Erica Stefanko was taken into custody and charged with first-degree murder. Her ex-husband, Chad Cobb, is already serving a life sentence for the murder.
Then she just kept quiet and put the cuffs on, and she sat in the back of the car. She didn't say another word.
After looking over her shoulder, listening for those sirens for the last 8 years, Erica's worst nightmare had come true.
Every time I hear a siren, I think they're coming for me.
She don't have to look over her shoulder anymore.
But making an arrest was one step. Actually getting a conviction with no physical evidence would be quite another.
Attorney Easter, are you ready to proceed?
I am, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. You may.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury,
Prosecutor Felicia Easter's opening in the murder trial of Erica Stefanko was forceful and straight to the point.
This murder of Ashley Biggs could not have happened if Erica Stefanko and Chad Cobb did not work together. It was planned together, and it was carried out together.
This was one of the first jury trials in Ohio since the pandemic lockdown, and the prosecutor was worried the COVID-19 precautions might blunt the power of her delivery.
Having a trial during a pandemic and having to wear masks and or shields, my voice doesn't carry during trial. My voice tends to drop.
And prosecutors were also concerned that Erica, wearing a mask, would hardly come across as a stone-cold killer.
We're like, look, she can sit there and look all innocent and sweet as pie. The problem is, as soon as we play that tape of her saying things like, I did not feel bad for Ashley.
Do I feel bad about what happened to her? Not really.
I almost think it heightens how angry people will look at her.
And the prosecutors made it clear the tape was the centerpiece of the case.
You're gonna hear it straight from Erica Stefanko's mouth, because it's her voice on the recording. During that secretly taped conversation, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I want you to please keep in mind complicity. Because again, whether or not you choose to label Erica as the principal or the accomplice, she is still guilty of aggravated murder, kidnapping, and aggravated robbery.
We did not need to prove he did it or that she did it. We just needed to know that they did it together and that one of them did it.
All right, Attorney O'Brien?
Erica Stefanko's lead lawyer, Kerry O'Brien, sought to portray his client as the victim of a vendetta by her ex-husband, Chad Cobb, who was expected to testify from prison.
He's stewing in that prison. And now he's trying to get out from under full responsibility. Because he wants to drag somebody else down to his level. He wants to get out of prison early. He wants his sentence shortened. Someone that took the mother of his daughter, ambushed her, beat her, and strangled her. And you are going to determine how much truth is in his statement.
To get the tape of Erica into evidence, the prosecution needed the testimony of the woman who secretly recorded it, Chad Cobb's mother, Cindy. She invoked the Ohio law that keeps the witness's face from being broadcast.
And at any time, did you alter that, change it, or give it to anyone else to alter or change?
No, sir.
All right, I'm going to start this first clip.
And for most of the morning of the second day of the trial, the jury heard one clip
I carried out my part in it. I did exactly what he told me to do.
after another clip of Erica discussing the crime with Cindy.
I did everything he told me to do, and I didn't even up.
That was the case. That tape, and as often as we could show it, play it, repeat it, that was the goal in that case. That was our strength.
It happened that we both be in prison right now. I don't disagree with that. That's totally the truth.
So here she's talking about the truth coming out, and what does she tell you?
That if the truth were to be told, that they would both be in prison right now.
Do you see that individual in the courtroom here today?
Yes, sir.
Could you please point her out and describe what she's wearing?
She's sitting in front of me with the white polka dot shirt and black pants. You know, it's something you don't ever think you're going to have to do, putting somebody in prison.
Thank you. Your Honor, we had asked that the record reflect that the witness has identified the defendant.
But Cindy Cobb's day was far from over as Erica's lawyer launched an aggressive cross-examination.
Take some of the stronger stuff if there's any available.
Starting with a suggestion she had tried to ply Erica with liquor.
Did you know Erica to start drinking heavily after Chad went to prison?
I knew she drank.
How many drinks do you think you offered Erica during that 3-hour period?
I believe it was only one.
So Erica, who had been drinking heavily, only wanted one drink in a 3-hour meeting with you at your place.
Best to my knowledge.
Is it safe to say that you don't like Erica Stefanko? Is that fair to say that?
We had a working relationship for the kids. She might not be my favorite person. I don't hate her.
Okay. I think I used the phrase, you don't like her. Is that a fair way of putting it?
After what's transpired, that'd be fair. You know, if she had a hand in it, which she did, then I guess it shouldn't just be Chad that's, paying the price.
To this day, you're hoping some way, somehow, to get Chad out of prison. Is that correct?
I would hope to one day.
And with that, the court connected to a live feed from the Ohio State Bureau of Prisons.
My name is Chad Cobb, and my last name is spelled C-O-B-B.
Prosecutors knew his testimony was a necessary risk.
We still had to prove the murder happened, and Chad helped us do that. So the weakness is that even though he told us what happened, we didn't really believe all of what he told us.
But the key point was that he could testify it was Erica who made the fateful call to Domino's, linking her to the planning of the crime.
And I remember she ordered a pizza. And I remember it struck me as bizarre because she ordered a half pepperoni and mushroom pizza.
And when she ordered the pizza...
She was smiling.
I'm sorry?
She was smiling.
And then his description of what happened in that dark parking lot when Ashley showed up with the pizza.
How did Ashley respond when she saw you there?
Worked up.
And I'm assuming you were not surprised that she was worked up.
With everything that was going on, looking back, she wasn't happy to see me, that's for certain.
Is it fair to say that Ashley did not leave that parking lot alive that night?
Yes, sir, that is accurate.
For Erica's lawyer now, the cross-examination of Chad Cobb would be crucial.
Okay, we're going to conclude your testimony here today.
And his testimony the next morning would let the jury decide whether Chad Cobb was a remorseful killer telling the truth or a betrayed husband determined to bring down his ex-wife at any cost.
Chad Cobb himself is going to undergo cross-examination from the big house, from the pen, from the state prison.
A last desperate effort by Cobb to get his revenge.
Well, Chad really doesn't have a legal way to get out of prison before he dies.
But with his testimony about the murder of Ashley Biggs, he did have a way, a final way, to get even with his ex-wife, Erica.
He was going to use it as a platform. He was going to minimize his involvement in that he's blaming Erica for actually killing her.
And it came during the cross-examination by Erica's defense lawyer, Carrie O'Brien, as Chad Cobb denied what he had previously admitted, that he killed Erica.
Did you strangle her?
I'm not the one who strangled her, sir.
Would you please repeat that?
I am not the one that strangled her, sir.
I see. So now you pled guilty, and now you're saying that you didn't kill her. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
It kind of threw us through a loop.
Would the jury believe him, or would it undercut his credibility about Erica's role?
Yeah, I mean, I think the jury is confused by Chad Cobb's testimony because the fact that, he in fact said he did kill and then he said he didn't.
So now prosecutors needed someone to corroborate the testimony of Chad Cobb about the pizza call, his teenage daughter, the daughter of the victim.
The reason we wanted her was because she had heard the phone call that Erica made to order the pizza.
She was half asleep in the back seat of the family SUV on the night of the murder, 7 years old at the time.
All right. GC, if you don't mind, if you would raise your right hand.
Her face was not broadcast, and she was referred to only by her initials.
Tell us about the phone call.
I can remember her, and I remember hearing it but not seeing it. And I know she ordered a pizza. I don't remember what she said that was on it. And I can remember that she did not use her name.
And of course, she didn't know the significance of that until sometime later. And now she knows that that was the call that lured her mother to her death.
All that Erica's lawyer could do on cross-examination was to show that she still had a motive to help her father, even though he had killed her mother.
Do you still love your dad?
Yes, I do.
Would you like to see him get out of prison soon?
Yeah, he's my dad.
And then a final shot at Erica on the redirect.
So Mr. O'Brien asked you if the purpose of you being here was to help your father, and you indicated it was not. So why are you here?
Because Erica didn't treat me right and nobody really knew about it.
Thank you, Judge.
All right, thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, we are here to hold this defendant, Erica Stefanko, accountable for the actions she chose to take on June 20th through June 21st, 2012.
More than 8 years had passed since the night Ashley Biggs was murdered.
You have duct tape.
Prosecutor Felicia Easter needed to take the jury back in time to the horror of that night.
You have a electrical restraint device, as Dr. Kohler calls it, a taser. You have gloves with knuckles, the hardened knuckles. You have a sheath knife.
Erica showed little emotion.
I mean, her big thing during the trial was that she sat with a photograph of her kids and husband, you know, kind of a family photo in front of her the whole time, and would kind of look at that longingly.
She knew why it was going to happen. It was that custody battle. It was retaliation. She made the call to Dominos that lured Ashley Biggs to her death.
And then clip after clip of that secretly recorded tape of Erica, her own incriminating words.
I carried out my part in it. I did exactly what he told me to do. And it wasn't because he was forcing me to do it or like he had a gun to my head.
That is very important. That passage right there speaks volumes. Erica Stefanko was in for a penny. Erica Stefanko was in for a pound. She committed this murder with Chad Cobb. She was there with him every step of the way.
The defense had made the decision not to put Erica Stefanko on the stand.
And simply putting your client up on the stand to say, I didn't do these things, it's just too risky.
And so it was up to her lawyer, Carrie O'Brien, to poke as many holes as possible in the tape in which she seemed to admit her role to Cindy Cobb.
So, we have this conversation which is secretly taped. And if she's not trying to get her son out of jail by some reason, or any reason, why is she taping the conversation? On cross-examination, we asked Cindy if she knew that Erica had been known to take a few drinks. How many drinks did you serve Erica that day?
I believe it was only one.
Oh, just one. Here's a woman that is used to drinking a six-pack of Smirnoff. Cindy has her there for 3 hours and I believe 1 minute. And she only serves her one drink.
And then an effort to cast some doubt on the testimony from Chad's daughter, who had said it was Erica who placed the fateful pizza order.
Now, I'm not going to pick on a 15-year-old. But let's talk a little bit about GC right now. When this incident happened, she's 7 years old. And 8 years later, he comes into this courtroom and describes with unusual detail about this phone call. Yet, she tells us she was asleep the rest of the time. Ladies and gentlemen, I would argue that Erica Stefanko is not guilty, but I would also argue that Chad Cobb has put together a plot not only to sink her, but his real reason here is it's revenge. That's what he wants, pure and simple. Revenge.
The prosecution expected a quick verdict, but that did not happen.
As a prosecutor, the longer it goes, the more doubt you put in your own mind. But we knew it was going to be tough.
The jury was out for 3 days.
All rise.
Before finally indicating they had reached a verdict.
So with that, then, I would like to have the forms handed to me, please.
You always feel your heart beating through your chest.
The jury has found the defendant, Erica Stefanko, guilty of the offense of aggravated murder, signed by all 12, dated the 25th day of November 2020.
Prosecutors said justice had been done finally.
It's been 8 years. It's been a long, long haul.
The daughter whose mother was murdered, whose father is in prison for life, was relieved.
I was glad that she was found guilty. If she would have been let loose, then I'd be scared for my life and everybody else in my life.
Erica Stefanko faced life in prison, bringing to an end a tragic family saga that left 4 children with parents either in prison or dead, and the scars of love and hate, betrayal and revenge.
The court is now in recess. Thank you.